Hey, everyone. Welcome to the Dales Report. And happy to be joined on the podcast here this morning. Bruce Linton, strategic advisor to Creso Pharma. Mr. Linton, happy holidays. How's things?
Well, things are good. Thanks for noticing that I shaved that ugly beard off before I got on air.
You look sharp. How was the year?
Gotta get a haircut. 2022 is the haircut year.
Yeah. Well, how much are you going to cut off?
Not too much. Listen, I think I'm not going to go to a job interview anymore. I'm just going to interview people for jobs, so I don't have to look that good.
That's a good place to be in, is it not?
It's the goal is to be on the right side of the table for interviewing. That should be like a life goal for everybody.
Maybe I should grow my hair.
Hey, listen, well, I think you're doing the interviewing now. You're interviewing me, but then you're also interviewing people who work with you. You got the power seat.
I don't know if I go that far, but I appreciate the vote of confidence. But I think my team might have another say about that. But happy holidays to you. I know it's been an interesting year, obviously, for Creso Pharma. First thing, what do you think, if you had to recap in a few words, like what are they doing well and what are some of the things that they need to up their game on as they head into 2022? And after that question, I can maybe update people on some of the highlights that they've done this year.
So when I look at, I'll go with the good news first, and then I'll go with the tougher thoughts second. Good news, I thoroughly love what I'm seeing, and I update every Monday with the Swiss research team. I think those products are ready for prime time. What they need to do is bring them there, which means spending on marketing and getting them in the channel. Bringing in Will Lay. So Will was my right-hand man on doing M&A at Canopy on a lot of really structurally, I'll call them advanced deals. Like how do you structure buying something you're not allowed to buy? And so Will is super sharp, totally gets the space. He and I had looked at setting up a US-oriented cannabis fund, but the tides turned, so we just didn't do it. Him coming in means they have great brain ethics on the team. And so I think he'll play a bigger role. And the final thing I think they're doing well is if you look at where Mernova was 2 years ago versus today. 2 years ago, man, if you gave the product away, that would have been about the right price. And now, they've got some stuff. Their Black Mama's coming in at like 30+% THC. They put it on the shelf. It's selling out. They're doing super well. And every month I talk to the guys that, I talk to them weekly, but every month seems to be a growth month for Mernova.
Well, last time we had spoke, I think it was up over 500 or even 550% with their ritual sticks, which is the pre-roll, and then the ritual green. So you're seeing that same trend since our last conversation?
As far as percentages, I can't say, but I'm seeing multiple markets super strong, bud tender feedback fantastic, and them actually being able to run all the rooms where they're getting high value product out. So this is like just, I will call it a genetics and platform upgrade. And they didn't have to spend any or very little CapEx to get there. What they had to get was the right people in charge with the right genetics and run the place right. And so I like that.
And that's just where we are in the industry, obviously, what we've learned, right?
Yeah. And there's a premium opportunity where I think they've got to up the game. This stock slowed down on its trading in terms of volume. It needs to get back on that. Now, part of it may have been, Adam's been in the news in ways you don't want to be in the news, but part of it's that maybe. But the other part is once it's trading higher volume, the second step is to pull the trigger on some M&A. Everything's relatively cheaper, and many things have become way faster, cheaper than us. So there are pieces to put together that will give you access to, I don't care if you want into America, if you want to diversify across CBD offerings, if you want to get a sales channel to bring your Swiss products through, there's all kinds of things to eat, to buy. And so I think they got to get trading volume, trade up, buy some things. And then ultimately, when you get a little momentum, what did I do every time? When people say your value is increasing, you sell a bit of stock to make the cash a little richer and keep going faster than anybody else.
Right.
And so I think,
and you find they are?
Well, I think when I look at the portfolio of companies I'm involved with, 2022, I think this could be one of the top 2 performers in 2022.
Wow.
Yeah. And will the crew pull the trigger, make it happen? Because they actually have content and they have good traction in the small things they're doing. They just need to get bigger and wider.
Yeah. Let's recap as well, revenue wise with their CBD pet products, and increased products sold obviously in the OCS stores as well. Any update that you can provide on how that's, with their pet products as well and how that's doing?
So you're seeing out of Switzerland, I think they had in the last quarter, there's some orders and inventory being created, but it's still just point sales. Like what is the best market for this product? The US.
Mm-hmm.
Where is this product not yet? The US. And if you look at like the bioavailability, the method they put it together, this is, if I were living, I have a little dog, used to have a big dog. If I had a dog that was experiencing anxiety when we go out the door to go to the grocery store or wherever you get to go these days, I would absolutely want to have these products. And there aren't really great competitors. Go look around. I was at the MJ Biz, back in November. I walked the entire trade show floor and I only saw 2 small, crappy brochures for pet care products.
That's it.
That's it. And so there's still a massive, unique spot. I think what you're going to find in Canada, if you're kind of that craft grower with the high-end product, there's going to be a very defensible position.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're going to be rotated into value product. You don't want to be in the value product category. And so I like Mernova's play there. And listen, when you have like, the reason I liked working with Will is you throw an idea around and then he keeps twisting it, and the next thing you know, it gets a bit complicated, but it's elegant and makes a humongous difference in terms of the structure and outcome of the company. I think their position with him, with currency, this thing still has very good trading volume, but it's not like, man, it used to trade like water every day. I love stocks that trade huge volume because, that means if you're in a situation for financing or an acquisition, you're not going to get massive discount.
Right. So do you mind me asking how many companies you're involved with? Because to say it's a top 1 or top 2, that's a bold statement.
So call it 10-ish now, but like, when we look at things like Gage is in Michigan, was a big push. It went from kind of 0 to call it $600-700 million acquisition by TerrAscend. Right. That's going to get closed, and it's going to get closed because it makes so much sense for the 2 parties to be together as soon as possible. So that, I'm not involved with that one. I'm having things finish, right? Like I've had 4 or 5 finish this year in very good outcomes. So we're talking maybe 8 or 10, and this one I just like because they're global. They don't see, how is it working in Nova Scotia? Because that's how they would look at it in Mernova if they weren't part of this thing with the Australia, the Swiss. And so I just think they've got the right perspective. Europe's going to be part of their play.
Europe is a big opportunity. And I see momentum building there, obviously with Germany happening this year. But with the EU and the dollar being so weak, they're looking for revenue any way possible. And I can't help but think the European market and players that are positioned there right now are going to take advantage of that. Very, very good.
Yeah, there's going to be rational regulations. There's going to be strong sell-through. And once it starts going, you get Malta, then you get Germany. It's just going to go clunk, clunk, clunk. And people are going to look and say, wow, how is it they arrived at more people than in America with better governance rules than America? And America's still going to be fighting about this in 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, I know. I know. I was saying that the other day. Germany. Hello, America. Like,
yeah,
we really don't
I like the diversity of exposure. A lot of people would say, well, how can a company run around the clock? Be in Australia. Well, there's some people there. And Switzerland, yes. How about Canada? A couple places, yes. But they've just built themselves that way. So what they just have to do are the things I said, right? Trade better, a little bit more push.
Yeah.
Get to the spot where Will can pull the trigger on some M&A, get momentum, put a little cash in so the things you buy, you can make go a lot faster. And before you know it, you're going, wow, these guys are in a great spot.
Yeah. You brought up Adam, and he went and ran into some things earlier this year. If you're an investor looking at this company, reading some stuff, moving forward, how do you, I guess, what's the important thing that you'd want to communicate to investors to say, what's done is done, moving forward, everything's taken care of?
Well, as far as I can tell, regulators, I don't care if they're in Australia, Canada, or the US, they're always looking at, if you were the banker, say you only dealt with like Coca-Cola, well, you don't really have that much latitude. It's a big company, big structure, just deal with these huge deals, simple debt. When you deal with the small companies, if you're like a tier 3 banker, and I don't mean that in a bad way, I mean it in that you're dealing with the small startups and you're having to get warrants this way. And, these deals are always complicated because there's not a ton of folks coming to the support of these early stage companies. So I suspect you're always going to have an eye looking on you that would be more aggressive than with the huge companies. Mm-hmm. My guess, I'm not close to it. I don't deal with that side of the business, but we've seen it in Canada. Do they ever come knocking on the door of the Royal Bank and say, how did you finance that humongous company? Or do they go knocking on the door of the small places, IROC, and say, looks like you invented things here. We want to beat up on you. So my gut is, regulators have to fill their day. They probably look at things. I look at the company, not what the regulators did. Yeah. And they're still just poking around. But to me, I I actually like the company. If I didn't like the company and I thought the regulators and there was an issue here, do you think I'd be on your show?
No.
Uh-uh.
No. Global company, record sales continue to grow. Looks like a very promising year just from a pure revenue standpoint. Last thing I wanted to touch on was their wholly owned Canadian subsidiary, Hallucinix. Earlier this year, they secured a controlled drug and substances dealer's license from Health Canada back in the summer. The goal is to focus on a planned phase 2 trial for PTSD. Have you had any word on any update on how that's progressing?
Yeah, so I actually, today's Monday, so I got a bit of an update. I think what we're going to see in very early January is the actual proposed working budget. So what do they need? And then the question is, that's where I can be helpful. Like, is there any place we can borrow a little, share with other people doing things? So as far as I know, they're working through the detailed plan of what to do, how much it costs and what the timing is. And I bet they'll be back to everybody in the new year on that. And that's where we can then start to say, how do we help? How do we share? Because, you know, a lot of these things, you can collaborate with pseudo competitors.
Yeah.
And both parties win.
Yeah. Well, you're going to see a lot of that, I think, when it related to medicine and PTSD. It's a huge market, and it's only getting bigger as far as the awareness. And I think originally people just thought you had to be a part of the military to have PTSD, but it's everywhere.
I think our whole society is really the worst thing COVID's done is made us all sort of stressed and twisted. The best thing it's done is made us talk about, how do we feel about that? What are we doing to respond to that? You know, some people work out 5 times a day. Yeah. Some people are, you know, drinking a bottle of wine and it's not quite, well, it is lunch, I guess. Some people are actually having conversations about therapeutics and what can they use. And so I just think, I think this space is actually going to be the theme of 2022 is going to be, for sure, we're coming out of COVID. This whole Omicron one is like, a lot of people get it. Nobody seems to die. And so I think this could be the way that wraps this up. But we're also going to start saying, when we build back better, and I know that's a broad theme, what is it that I want to do?
Yeah.
And some people are going to change their jobs. Some people are going to change their
100%.
spouse. Yeah. But some people are going to change their mind. And when they change their mind, it means that they're going to look at, how does this function? What are my inputs and what are my outputs? And I think we're in the right space to be part of that whole discussion and thinking process.
Yeah. Anybody you want to wish a happy holiday season to?
Well, let's start with you, man.
Thanks, brother.
And you know what? I listen, I have a whole lot of red and a little bit of green on all my stock charts. So I'm feeling it for everybody who's playing in the markets.
Yeah.
I'm sure we've all done our tax loss selling, but now we have to make some money in 2022. Yeah. So take a breath, take a look and pick right.
Appreciate the moment. And obviously health is most important. I know that seems like a cliche, but I think people really understand that, especially in the last 2 years and how everything's kind of unfolded. But happy holidays to you and all your family. Great catching up with you, and we'll talk to you in the new year.
Sounds good. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.